What's going on, lads? It's your boy Cameron here and welcome back to another video on the channel. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today we are doing we're not actually doing a rebuild today. We're doing a more like a talking video, one-on-one kind of how-to typed video. I have been thinking about doing this video for a very long time. I haven't got around to doing it. It's just kind of something that just kept falling down on the list, and I just kept thinking maybe it's just too hard to do because I just couldn't put aside the time to do it. But I've got the time now, so I did some things. I actually wrote down a whole bunch of stuff on the notes. So if I look down at my keyboard, it's because I'm looking at my notes and what I've written down for this video. So in case you guys don't know, it is a how-to video on how to make trades in 2K20. If you haven't followed along with my videos, you know I do make trades a lot in my videos. I post a lot of rebuilds. So just a disclaimer, I don't want to say that I'm an expert. I will say that I have got quite a lot of experience using the MyLeague trade system. And this is just stuff that I've learned from my experiences. You guys probably have different experiences to me, and that's fine. That's completely fine. So if you disagree with some of these things, let me know down in the comments, and that would be absolutely amazing because I'm always willing to learn, and hopefully you guys are willing to learn too. 2K20, there are two different ways you can make trades. So the first one is the trade finder. This is probably the easiest one. I'll get into it a bit later, but if the proposed trade seems too complicated, just go use the trade finder and you can basically do anything. You can trade your two best, okay, never mind, maybe you can trade your best players and you can get offered up trades. This probably wouldn't be a good trade, so you'd probably go like this trade. Okay, never mind, just trade up Wiggins then. And you can offer these guys, you can offer up to 3 players and the game will automatically create a trade for you. So you could go like an Oladipo and give up your first round pick, but I'll get into that one a little bit later. I want to start off with the more difficult one, the proposed trade, because trade finder doesn't always offer you the player that you would like. But just a disclaimer here as well, you will not be able to get the players like LeBron, KD, Steph Curry, AD, and Kawhi Leonard, those type of superstar level players. They're listed as untouchable in their teams, and they're almost impossible to trade for. You could try all you want, you can offer up your entire roster, and they still will not do it. Because they just don't want to get rid of them because they're superstar players and no one wants to get rid of those guys. I'm not gonna lie. But just as a bit of a side note there, if you actually do want them for your team, just bring the sliders all the way down, the trade sliders, and you should be able to trade for those players. But if you want to keep it realistic, boost it back up to the normal side, and it should be realistic, and you shouldn't be able to do it. So on the proposed trade side, you can offer up your player in Klay Thompson and just say we want to offer get Paul George. As you guys can see, there are stars underneath Klay Thompson and Paul George. That is this player value system in 2K20. It goes up to 5 stars, 5-star being superstar like LeBron James, Curry, Durant. That goes up to 5 stars. 4.5 stars is that tier below, like that star level all-star, and then there's 4 stars for like still an all-star, like but borderline, and 3.5 and all that type of stuff. So yeah, it goes down, the lower the amount of stars, the lower the value. When using this, teams aren't going to let you get away with like steal trades, because if you go like this, it's probably not going to work. Like even Paul George, even giving up Klay Thompson, you're probably not going to be able to get Paul George because it's just not going to work in this game. 2K just doesn't let you if you want to get Paul George. So as you guys can see, it comes up with it's not going to work. Even if you chuck in like a first, it's not going to work still. Even in real life, that seems like an alright deal. It just doesn't seem, 2K just doesn't like it. My tip for getting a trade for as cheap as possible is after adding an asset, say you add like a first round pick, you test it every time, and just to make sure you just chuck in, every time you chuck in an asset, you make sure to see if you can get it. That's just my tip to try and get for someone as cheap as possible. Another rule of thumb is if it comes up with that player is untouchable, which I will pull it up now. If you press start and the player and it says that that player is untouchable, then it's almost highly unlikely. It's very, very, very rare that they will accept a trade for them. I did go over that just before, but it does say here Kawhi Leonard is someone we consider untouchable. Only way they accept a trade for him is if I'm blown away, and that deal just doesn't do that. Which, I mean, fair enough. It's a 5-star player being traded for a 4.5-star player. So even if we were to go like this and trade Curry for Kawhi, they still wouldn't do that. And it's just, yeah, it just won't work for them. So That's just my thoughts. So as soon as it says untouchable, basically just give up. You're not going to be able to get them. But if it says a valuable asset like Paul George over here, so if we go back to Paul George, as you guys can see, is a valuable asset. So that way we're always in with a shot. It is actually possible to trade for them. They're not untouchable. If you offer up a good enough package, you could probably get them. But for someone with like Paul George, you're probably not going to get them without offering up a really big deal. But just make sure that when you're offering players and picks and stuff, that it's around the same value, if not higher. Otherwise, the other team will not accept that trade. Another factor you've got to take into consideration is the player salary. So as you guys can see at the bottom of each window here, it says invalid trade and valid trade. That basically means that salaries don't match up. So you can figure out when it comes like that, you can figure it out what's going on. Basically, the Clippers will go over the salary cap by 25.24 mil. So you have to find a player that's going to be around the same salary. And luckily for us, the Warriors have a Kevon Looney, who now it says it's a valid trade. However, there is a little bit of a catch. When it says this, it still says it's an illegal trade, right? For this trade, the Warriors would acquire 212k more than allowed, and it says a trade exception is available to make up the difference. The trade exceptions do come in every now and then, but as you guys can see, it doesn't always work. So as you see now, we can it did automatically generate a deal like the trade finder after adding the trade exception, so that we could get Montrezl Harrell for Kevon Looney, Eric Paschal, and a first round pick. That's actually not a bad deal, you know. That's actually really not a bad deal. If I was doing a rebuild, I'd probably do that trade because Montrezl Harrell is really good in this game. So I would get Montrezl Harrell, but if we're not doing a rebuild. So yeah, this is basically what goes on with the proposed trade. When trying to match salaries, it does get a little bit difficult because of the salaries, and then you have to make sure that they've got enough players on the roster and make sure that the values of each trade is each player, each asset is the same, so that there is a chance that they will actually accept that trade. Basic rule of thumb here is to make sure you find players that have around the same amount of salary and the same amount of value, and that way it will be much easier to use trades. If not, like I said, it will get real complicated. There's a lot of different factors that come into play, and it makes trading a lot more difficult. So if you want to make it easier on yourself, just make it so that you find players around the same salary and around the same value as well. So yeah, if you're trading for a rookie, try and give up a rookie and like picks, and that way it will probably go through. Speaking of picks though, it is always best to try and lowball a team as much as you can. Try adding one first and then trying to go for the deal. So if I go back to here, if I bring up like a Jimmy Butler deal with the Heat here, just a sec. So as you see on screen, it says Klay Thompson, Jimmy Butler. It doesn't work. So as soon as we offer up a first, it still doesn't work. So after every time you add a pick or an asset, keep trying to make it work. This is just what I do with picks. If you guys haven't seen my rebuilds, this is what I do every time I'm making a trade. So as you guys can see, you just keep going, and once you can't offer up any other seconds, you go here and chuck in another first and some more seconds. That's basically what goes on. So yeah, that's really how you try and get lowball a team as best you can. I try and do that as much as possible, try and get as much try and give up as little value as I can in return for that value. That's just my preference. It does help in the rebuilds. I suggest you try and do that as well. It does help when offering up picks for a player. Going back to the trade finder, as you guys probably know, it is best way to use the trade finder is if you're looking for a power forward, give up a power forward and also a player that has a little bit of value, say like Allen and like say a future first. Then you should be able to get a power forward in return or a player in return that has a similar amount of salary and value. Say, as you guys can see, we can get a power forward in Gallinari, which is actually a really good deal. I'd probably do that for Draymond Green, not gonna lie. LaMarcus Aldridge, not so much. Blake Griffin, that's not bad either for value wise. But the best deal that comes up here is Gallinari. So you'd probably be doing this one, but you give up value. So basic rule of thumb, if you're using a trade finder, make sure if you're looking for someone in particular, make sure you give up someone that's similar value, same position, and similar salaries. That way, it's more than likely that that player will come up, and make sure that you offer up a little bit more so that the trade finder does actually recognize that player, recognize the amount of value you're giving up, and can possibly offer up that player. But that's just what I try and do do, I try and make, if I'm looking for a power forward, I make sure I offer up a power forward. If I'm looking for a point guard, I make sure I offer up a point guard. Because if you give up a small forward and power forward and you're looking out for a point guard, teams won't do that unless they have excess point guards, which most teams do not. Excess good point guards. So you don't expect them to be offering up point guards unless it's like superstar players. Like if I was to offer up Steph Curry here, if I was to offer up Steph Curry, you can get like Ben Simmons, John Wall. There's no point guard there, but you do get a guard in CJ McCollum. You do get D'Angelo Russell, Chris Paul. You don't get a guard here, but DeMar DeRozan can play the 2. You get offered up Russell Westbrook. Get Drew Holiday, Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, Kemba Walker. See, so most of these offers have guards in them. So that's my basic rule of thumb. If you're trying to get a point guard, try and offer up a point guard, and that way it's more than likely that they will offer one up while you're using the trade finder. If you're looking for like a backup point guard, I'd same just again, you offer up a point guard and you just basically offer up a pick and a first round pick, and you should be able to get a better backup point guard. So as you guys can see, we're offering up Kai Bowman, who's a 72 overall, and if we can find Brad Watermaker, there's a better Patrick Beverly, that's a much better backup point guard. So basic rule of thumb, if you're trying to find a backup position, offer up your current backup and a pick, and you should be able to pick up a very, very good, much better backup position player. So that's just what I try and do, but that's really all the tips that I really have for you guys. I'm sorry if it's not as much as you guys would hope, but there's really, thinking about it, there's not a whole lot. It's just a very it's not a whole lot of complicated stuff. It's a lot more of just fiddly stuff. So when you're using the proposed trade, it is a lot more fiddly, and it takes a lot more attempts and tries to try and get a very good player. And with the trade finder, it's just the best way, because then the computer simulates an entire trade for you, and it's it's much better to use the trade finder, especially when you're trying to make videos a lot like I am. But if you really want a player, you by all means try your best to try and get them. Adjust those sliders. It's a lot of fun using 2K, because that's what 2K is all about. Try and bring on your favorite players on your favorite teams. That's the best way to play 2K. It's the most fun. It's amazing. It's a fun thing to do. So yeah, that's going to be it from this video. Hopefully you guys have learned something from this. I'm expecting a lot of comments from you guys teaching me a couple of things as well. So be sure to leave a comment if you haven't already about the trades in 2K20. I'm all ears and I'm ready to listen to you guys. So that's going to be it from me. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new, and hit the like button while you're down there. It will be absolutely phenomenal if you guys could do that. Show your support for the channel. It would be fantastic if you guys can do that. That's going to be it from me. Hopefully you guys all have a good rest of the day. I'll catch you guys in the next video.